Hello and welcome to Car Stories. I'm your host, James McKeon. We've decided to change things up a bit and we're kicking off a new format of Car Stories in the Car Stories podcast. For our first guest this new series, we've got Pushkar Modi. He's the Director of Engineering with Turo. Turo is a car-sharing service. It allows private car owners to rent out their vehicles online. Pushkar decided to rent one of these vehicles for us to drive around the city today. So here we are, driving in a wonderful Porsche 911 GT3. These little things, visitors, I like to let them know.
I wanted the full experience.
Okay, well there you go. So, since this is Car Stories, we may as well start talking about you, Pushkar. So Pushkar, tell me about yourself.
I'm 35 years old. I grew up in Bombay in India and moved to the United States about a decade ago.
Okay.
I currently live in San Francisco and I work for this amazing company called Turo. It's a startup.
Perfect, and we'll get to Turo a little bit later, but firstly, I just want to focus on you. So, how did you, obviously we got into cars today through a door, which has most people get through cars, unless you're the Dukes of Hazzard and you slide in through the window. But what started you getting about cars? What was it that caught your interest in that regard?
For as back as I can remember, I've, always really enjoyed cars. I had those small scale cars that I loved to play with. Those were the only toys I had. Sure.
Were you more a Hot Wheels man or a Matchbox man?
I was more of a Hot Wheels man.
Okay.
I remember getting this beautiful 911 Carrera. I still have it, actually. I still have most of my toys, and it has always been a passion. I can't remember the first moment I noticed a car because I was so young.
Sure. And then that's obviously stayed with you throughout your life then?
Yeah, it has stayed with me. I have an early childhood memory of my dad walking into the room when I was supposed to be studying and I was actually playing with my cars. And he said to me, if you want to grow up and actually own one of those, you should be looking at your textbooks. And so I, always had that in mind, and sure enough, now I have been able to buy some of these cars. So
sure,
I'm glad I listened to him.
Well, yeah, it seems like he gave you some sage advice. Yeah. My dad didn't quite go down that path, so I'm still just playing mostly with Hot Wheels. That's how I've got it at this point in time. But I do have a Ford GT that not many people have, so that makes me a little bit happy at least.
Very nice.
But so tell me, Pushkar, so what is the car that you're driving now then?
So I currently own a 2015 Porsche Cayman GTS.
Yep.
The 981s. I wanted to not miss out on the 6-cylindered glory. The new 718s are obviously 4 cylinders.
Sure.
And with turbos, I wanted the full bleed naturally aspirated. So I just picked one up a few months ago, actually. I've been wanting a Cayman for about a decade now, so I was glad I was able to pick it up just in time.
Sure, and then what is it that we're in today?
This is a 2015 Porsche GT3. It's a 991. This is the famous, model that Porsche came out and said PDK only.
Okay.
It does sound beautiful though. It has electronically assisted steering, 475 brake horsepower. Goes like a beast, revs to 9,000 RPM. It sounds glorious, but I don't think we'll be able to try that in this traffic today.
Well, we can see how we go. We can always try. I think we can always do the Bruce Meyer philosophy and just go with never lift, Pushkar. I think that's one way to look at it.
We can try that, yeah.
Of course, it is Los Angeles, and anything really goes here on the roads in LA. So, this is obviously, when we talked earlier before we started the podcast, you said that you thought this was your ideal LA car.
I come from San Francisco, and traffic is getting worse in San Francisco as well. But ever since I first came to LA, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, I've always felt that the freeways in LA are like racetracks. Everybody just is 10 or 20 miles above the speed limit. The first time I came here, I had a Mercedes C240. It was my first car. And I remember, all right, I think, I'm finally going to get to use manual now. So, flip my Tiptronic to manual and went all beans. So whenever I'm in LA, I make sure I have a fast car.
Okay.
Or at least a car that I can go to manual and go fast.
Sure. It's because you like giving it the beans, is that what it is?
I do.
It's all about the beans.
Yeah, I don't think, I like hearing the sound of the engine. So I'm making the most of the visceral feeling, the vibrations of the engine, the kick in the back, while we can still enjoy these cars.
Sure, of course. So tell me then about your wonderful company that you work for, and actually that was providing this lovely car for us that we're driving today.
Yeah, so I was going to come to LA, and I needed a cool car, and I rented this from the company that I work at currently. It's called Turo. It's the world's largest peer-to-peer car sharing company. So we're a startup in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
We've raised over $200 million from the likes of Daimler and some top-notch ventures. We operate in 5,600 cities, 500 plus airports. We have close to 200,000 cars, over 800 makes and models. If there's a car that you really want to drive, and I think this is true for all enthusiasts, they're always test driving, they're always in the market.
Sure.
They might not be able to afford one,
Yeah.
but they still want to try it. And this is what makes me really happy about working at Turo, because I can bring together my passion for cars and computers. I'm a software engineer by training, so I got to work on in a company where I could put my training for computers and my passion for cars together, and so I really enjoy working here.
Sure. And so, what are some of the cars that you've had the ability to drive around in your time then working for your company? What are some of the fun ones you've had?
The fun ones, yeah. So let me name them. In the last year or so, I've driven a 356 Porsche Speedster replica,
Okay.
a Jaguar F-Type, an Audi R8 V10, a BMW M2,
Yep.
which I really wanted to try, the GT3, the one that we're in right now.
Yep.
Let's see. I think for some casual gigs, I wanted to try the Audi A6 and the new Mercedes C300, so I tried those as well.
Yep.
And an Alfa Romeo 4C and a Porsche Boxster GTS, the 981, which, when I drove that, I was like, this is really good. I want one of these. So that actually made me go and buy my car. But I wanted a Cayman. I didn't want the convertible. So.
Sure. No, so it seems like you've had quite a few cars then.
Yeah, it's a wonderful company, and we get access to a lot of cars.
Yeah, which would be fun. So is there any what type of cars, I mean obviously you've mentioned a couple there, but is there any an age limit of what the cars could be, or do you have some older classics on there as well?
We do have some classics. We do have people now who are beginning to appreciate and think about, if I were able to share that car and make some money off of it, I can then go and buy my next classic. So we've started seeing some old Mercedes heritage kind of cars. We have a number of 356 replicas.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple of Shelby Cobras, the old AC Cobras.
Sure.
They're replicas as well, but you at least you get to experience what it feels like to be in that car, and it puts a smile on everyone else's face as well.
Of course. And so what about some of the trips that you've been able to take these cars? Is there any ones that you really enjoyed where you had driving the cars?
Yeah, I was in Italy about a few months ago. I think it was August, September. And
It's a terrible time to be in Italy. Truly awful.
And
how did you manage to drag yourself through that?
Yes, it was awful. All these Formula One buffs at the Monza Grand Prix, all of these museums, Ferrari. I mean, it was heaven. It was absolute heaven. It was a dream trip.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to rent an Audi. I couldn't get a really sporty car, but it was an Audi at least. And I drove around the Stelvio Pass.
Oh, very nice.
The San Bernardino Pass, and it was epic. It was those roads are majestic. Every enthusiast needs to go to Europe and drive through some of those passes.
Of course.
Doesn't get much better than that. Last year I also rented a beautiful Jeep with a tent on the roof.
Yep.
And drove across New Zealand.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a blast. We did, I think, 4,500 kilometers, about 3,000 miles.
Sure. So was that both the North and South Island?
Yeah, that was from Auckland all the way to the Milford Sound and back up. So it was a beautiful 18-day road trip.
Hopefully you took the ferry rather than drove it across the water.
Yeah, we tried. The Jeep wouldn't really swim, so yeah, we had to use the ferry.
Went back to the ferry, yeah. So does that? With that being the case, did you make sure you were wearing a pair of jandals while you were driving and had a chili bin next to you?
Depending on where you are in New Zealand, the weather can change so quickly. It was my first, it was my wife's first time camping.
Okay.
And I told her, this is not really camping because we're on top of a car. And, took her next to a glacier. We were freezing at night in our sleeping bags. But, sleeping in a car is also a lot of fun.
Sure.
Actually, whether you're inside the car or on top. That has been, it wasn't my first time sleeping in a car on top of it. But it was a very memorable.
Hopefully it was your first time sleeping on top of a car in a tent, though.
It was my first time, yes.
All right,
it was my first time.
I will say probably sleeping in this car might not be as comfortable as it would have been as sleeping in that one.
Yeah, not a lot of room.
I think stretching out might be a bit of a challenge on that front.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Well, that is quite an adventure, because I've also done that same trip, whereas I've driven around the North Island and driven around the South Island as well.
Now we have something else in common.
We do, Pushkar. Look at that. But I have not done the Stelvio Pass. But then again, I spend a lot of time in the canyons out here in Los Angeles, which is not a bad place to be. But so, what brought you to Los Angeles this time? Was it work or was it pleasure?
It was a bit of both. It was obviously, I wanted to check out the Petersen Museum and chat with you, but I also wanted to take a look at the LA Auto Show.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I think the last time we came, we skipped last year. We were here the year before that for the LA Auto Show. So we thought, we combined both of them and got to see some really cool stuff at the auto show as well. So it was mostly pleasure and work, a little bit of both.
Sure. What was it that caught you eye at the motor show then?
I think a couple of things. First of all, it was really cool to see the Ford GT, the new Ford GT.
Mm-hmm.
It has been featured in a couple of booths across the show. First time I saw it in person. Beautiful looking car. I'm sure it goes well as well. The two other things that really caught my eye were Volkswagen had some really cool concepts.
Yep.
They call them the IDs.
Yep.
They had 3 cars. One was a van, one was sort of like a small SUV, a compact SUV, and the other was a hatchback. And they're really thinking about what the interiors of the cars might look like with level 4 and level 5 autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like a hexagonal steering wheel that might retract back into the box that it can come from, and it might pop back out when the car wants you to take over. So there was some really bright, fresh design from Volkswagen, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I got to see a couple of brands that I've never really heard of, who are beginning to come out. I mean, I've heard of them, but they've not really built a mass producing car so far.
Mm-hmm.
So Celine is coming out with a car.
Yep.
I think it's called the One. It's called the Celine One.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a car from this company called Bullinger Motors, which is building like an electric Hummer.
Yes.
So I had never seen one of those. There's a couple of other players that I thought were also very interesting. One was, I can't remember the name exactly, but it was like a tricycle. It was 3-wheeled, which was also fun looking.
The Vanderhall?
I think it started with an S. I'm blanking on the name now. But yeah, I thought, it was nice to see people still playing around with electric and hybrid concepts.
Sure.
People wanting to come to the market with sporty looking cars. Oh, the third one was Aria. The Aria XE.
Yep.
I believe they're a design studio in LA, and they're now coming up with their own $1,000, I think 1,000 horsepower hybrid.
Because we need another 1,000 horsepower car.
It looked amazing.
One of the interesting things is, when I was able to spend some time at the LA Auto Show, we got to talk to a friend of the CarStories podcast, Alex Earl, who was a designer for Volkswagen, who's talking about, with them plans to go focus purely on electric, the opportunities it gives them for design and what they could do in regards to the cab forward design and how they can look at changing the space of the interior of a car. So it's going to be, as you say, really interesting to see what these guys pull together.
Yeah, I really think of these, with electric cars, or with all the changes in mobility, we're going to start seeing so much innovation in sort of the secondary areas, like interior car design. You have all this real estate. You don't really have all your attention on the road anymore, because the car's driving for you. And there's a huge opportunity now to almost rethink cars, the first time in over 100 years.
Certainly.
And they're going to be like horizontal elevators, right? You're going to get into the car and it's going to drive you horizontally instead of vertically like a regular elevator. And what do you do with your time? when you're with yourself, by yourself, or if you might be with a passenger. I think it's interesting times ahead.
Certainly, and then being especially in the technology front, how do you think the automation of cars and how's that going to play out moving forwards? Obviously, we see it with Tesla and Volvo and companies like that are going down the direction with Volvo. So how will that impact people like you as a software developer moving forward and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're seeing 4 major trends. Let me go back to manual. There's 4 major trends in mobility right now. There's connected cars, there's autonomous cars, there's sharing, how people think about ownership and how people think about sharing their cars.
Yep.
And there's electrification.
Sure.
There's 4 major trends. So most of the players that we see right now, they're focused on one of these 4 or maybe even all of these 4. As cars get more connected, they get more autonomous and they get more electrified, I think it's going to lead to more sharing. And we're in the center of that space. So we're really excited about how things are changing. I think the opportunity is ripe for people to rethink car ownership. Cars are, for the most part, the second largest investment, for car enthusiasts especially, that we like to make. And before Turo, there's no precedent of cars actually being an appreciating asset.
Sure.
We're beginning to see people who started with 1 car on Turo now have 11 cars, because they're able to monetize on that ownership and go buy their next car. So, we're seeing people, beginning to rethink how they might want to own cars. Even with ride sharing, with things like Uber and Lyft, we are seeing trends where people in dense metros no longer like to own a car and deal with parking and insurance and all of that.
Certainly.
That makes us ripe for that weekend canyon trip, right?
Course.
You want a cool car.
Yep.
You might want an SUV in the winter, or you might want a sporty car like the GT3.
I mean, look, I think it's a great thing. The options are, I like going there shopping. That's what I like to do. Going there and trying to pretend which car I should get.
Yeah, that's a popular use case. It's beginning to become a popular use case. People who are, in the market for a Tesla but don't know what it's going to be like to live with an electric car. And 15-minute test drive doesn't. 15-minute test drive doesn't tell you everything.
No, it certainly doesn't. So if you can get it for a week of real driving, then it gives you an idea of what's it really like.
We're super excited. There's a Lamborghini coming our way.
See,
you're bringing me to some best roads and to some best roads in LA.
For our viewers, obviously, that are watching this and listening, we're on Rodeo Drive.
There's so much happening in mobility in general, and we think we're right in the center of it. Daimler is one of the companies that recently invested in us. And they invented the automobile, so they should know. We're beginning to collaborate with them, and we're going to launch in Germany soon as well. So we're going to bring this concept into Germany and the rest of Europe over the coming months. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we're excited. And we're here now, bucked at the front of the Beverly Wilshire almost. Big mistake, Pushkar. Huge mistake. At least you're not doing a Richard Gere, Pushkar. That's the important thing, and having trouble with your Lotus and your gear shifts.
Yeah.
The PDK kind of makes it
a little bit easier. Makes it easier in the city for sure.
We're also going to go past the Ferrari Beverly Hills dealership here on the right.
Yeah, I have a photograph from standing posing outside the dealership, I think 8 years ago.
You do?
I remember that, yeah. Oh. It's my profile picture on my outdated Yahoo email address.
Whatever happened to Yahoo?
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're still around somewhat.
Yeah.
No, there's always something you can see. Like you said, what do we see there? Lamborghinis, Porsches, AMG V8s, Rolls Royces.
Yeah.
Soon to be the Ferrari dealership. It's not a bad place to be going for a drive here in LA.
Yeah, that's true. It's a beautiful day too.
It is. It is a nice, clear day, which for those obviously doesn't help with our listeners, but some of our viewers now will be able to enjoy it. But you'll be flying back out tonight then, Pushkar, is that right? Back to San Francisco?
Right, yeah. Evening flight back home, yeah.
So you have to... So what is we're in the car now. What's the process for picking it up and then dropping up? How does all that work? If someone's going to try.
So, I landed at LAX yesterday around 2 p.m. I had this car booked and I had curbside delivery. So, I met a friend, the owner of this car, by the curb. He walked me through the car. We took some photographs before the trip to make sure there were no dents or dings, just like you would with a typical rented car.
Yep.
And off I went. There were no shuttles. There was no, trying to sell me insurance and a car seat and fuel and a GPS. None of that. It is a truly joyful experience renting a car, and it becomes an integral part of my trip versus just this, standard Ford Fusion, which I don't even know I'm going to be driving till I actually get there.
Yeah.
So it is a truly memorable experience, and on the way back tonight, it's going to be the same. I'm going to meet him at the airport.
Yep.
Hand over the keys. We're going to do a walk around of the car. I'm going to refuel the car, make sure it's wiped down, or I'll get it washed, and I'll just hand it back to him as if it was, as if I was borrowing a car from a friend.
Perfect.
It's pretty straightforward, and all of this is enabled through a modern experience. You can do this through our iOS or Android or web app, which most of our users really, everybody has a smartphone these days, so it becomes a seamless experience.
Hey, that's what you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
Nice and easy. That's been a pretty fun car, let's be honest about it. I mean, we didn't quite get to the 9,000.
Yeah, I mean, we can still try, but it's going to be hard.
Just bounced off the rev limiter at the next set of traffic lights, Pushkar. I think that's totally fine. Yeah. And if anyone asks, you say, look, we're filming, it's totally fine.
Okay.
But yeah, so what, obviously you're doing some things now with the museum. What is the plans going forward with the museum? What do you guys have in plan for it?
Really, at a very broad level, we are auto enthusiasts at Turo ourselves. Our CEO, like I said, has a couple of cars. As I mentioned to you earlier, he has a couple of cars on Turo. We encourage all of the employees of Turo to go rent from Turo every month. So we give everybody $100 credit.
Nice.
Which is how I'm able to drive all of these fancy cars.
Of course.
We encourage our employees to go buy cars and list them on Turo. So we are using our own product.
Yep.
That's really important to us. And we know that we will only succeed if we can encourage some of the most hardcore enthusiasts to actually use Turo, and they should really have a delightful experience. Our NPS, the Net Promoter Score, a metric to measure customer satisfaction, is 3x a traditional rental car company.
Yep.
So a traditional rental car company is about 25.
Yep.
We're at about 75. And to put it into context, the last time I checked, Apple was at 72.
Okay, so
we're really trying to hit that level of customer experience, customer support.
Sure.
And for us, tying up with the Petersen Museum is really important because it is one of the greatest brands, greatest museums in all of America, maybe even the world.
Yep.
And it gives us the opportunity to connect with the hardcore enthusiasts, get back into the community, get a pulse of what people want, what really excites them, especially as we're going through all these major changes in mobility.
Sure.
So we have a couple of events coming up at the Petersen, as you know. We have an event next Sunday, and then some exciting announcements.
Which, because of the magic of technology, will be last Sunday.
And then we have a couple of exciting announcements in the next few months. So stay tuned on Petersen's website.
Perfect. No, we're looking forward to, as the partnership grows, and seeing where it ends up. And I'll let you do your thing. No, you can rev it a little. Give it some beans. See, I just didn't want to take that away from you, Pushkar. See that smile on your face. See the smile. Everyone gets to see it on the camera. That's the important thing.
How can that not make you happy? Any enthusiast here knows what that feels like. It just makes you feel alive.
It does.
It's a lot of fun.
When it puts the bum in the seat, it's like the way I like to, the metric I like to use.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's like you say, and so having that opportunity to be able to pick up a car and get it anywhere, it's a great thing to have. It's so easy.
It is, yeah, and like I said, enthusiasts are always in the market. They're always test driving. We can't own all the cars that we enjoy or we want to try.
No, because my garage would be far too big, and then I wouldn't even know which key to get in the morning. I mean, just think of what you've got, the keys on the rack there.
Yeah,
It's so many challenges.
Yeah.
And then having to keep them all filled with petrol, then keep them clean.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be too difficult.
Yeah, I really like, I'm really glad I get to be a part of Turo, help build the company. We're a startup. We're just 200 employees. We're beginning to grow. It's like a typical Silicon Valley startup. But, as a user, I really do want something like this to exist. You should be able to drive any car you want. So we're democratizing supercars in a way. We have the largest collection of Porsches and Teslas that you can rent anywhere. You can't even rent them before Turo. So that is really exciting to me. I really enjoy my job, and glad that Turo's doing well.
It sounds like you really enjoy it. That's
I do. Yeah.
And it sounds like when your dad told you to put away the Hot Wheels and get into the textbooks, it's probably paid off for you rather well.
Yeah, it's been fortunate. Yeah, good advice. Yeah.
And so, where is Turo located in San Francisco then? Where's the office?
We're in the heart of downtown, so we're on 667 Mission. For people who are familiar with the geography, it's right next to the financial district. We're in Soma, south of Market. So we're in the heart of downtown.
Yeah, and those hills in San Francisco.
And
that's one of those times when you don't mind the PDK with those hills as opposed to having the manual.
Yeah, that's my Porsche Cayman is actually a PDK for exactly that reason. I want to spend my time. A lot of purists might not agree with this.
A lot of purists though don't live in San Francisco and drive up those hills. So let's be honest, Pushkar, it's about that.
Yeah, for me, I think I just want the sound of that engine. I want to be able to feel connected to the car.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty to do in the car as is when you're driving fast. So I don't, the gear shifts, I don't miss that much. Of course, I have the beautiful paddles behind the steering wheel, so I enjoy that.
Yeah, and also I will say that when you do get a car with paddles and a responsive gearbox, it still is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and this car, I don't know if we caught that on video, but the Cayman actually makes a really nice burble.
Yep.
When you're downshifting, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then this car actually gives you a nice little oomph, when you're shifting, it gives you that blip. I'm all about the sound.
Yeah, it's certainly that engrossing, all-encompassing idea of you feeling at one with the car is certainly advantageous with the supercar.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to pay for the petrol. That's all. After a while. You got when you want to see the loud pedal.
Yeah, if it's a hobby, and it's okay to spend a little bit for your hobby while you can.
Of course, that's great.
We're so fortunate. I really think about this honestly. We're so fortunate that we are getting to experience cars like this
that we never get to before.
And then in a few years when everything is electric and everything is autonomous, I don't know if we'll actually get to drive most of the time. We might get to drive in the outskirts of cities because it might be too dangerous when autonomous cars are mainstream.
Yep.
Will cars have an engine? Most of them probably won't in a few decades. In a few generations, I'm not sure. But, I'm glad we're in that sweet spot. That sweet 100 years when we got to try and drive these beautiful cars that actually kick us in the back when we change gears.
Yeah, not only that, there's a few cars obviously that I'll take you to afterwards down in the vault that I've got no idea how to drive.
Interesting, yeah, I'd love to see those.
Like the round door Rolls Royce.
Okay.
I mean, between you and me, that obviously no one's listening to us here. It's a podcast, so we're totally fine. Dana said, James, if you can drive the round door Rolls Royce out of here, it's yours to keep.
Can I get a crack at that? And you can keep it, but I just want to...
Well, look, we can certainly see how it goes. But firstly, I think the difficulty one is sliding inside the doors with the 6-inch width that you get in there. Because round doors don't obviously... I mean, they look beautiful. But
they're not meant for cars.
Yeah, it's a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's exactly the transition purely through where it's going, where it started, where it's going to. So exciting right now.
Yeah, it is an amazing time. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of this is nobody really knows. All the brands they just want to be a part of the conversation right now. I was at a talk last week where the CEO of Porsche and the CEO of Porsche Digital, Oliver Bloom and Thilo Karowski, were at a talk at the Computer History Museum in San Francisco, and they just started this thing called Porsche Digital in San Francisco.
Yep.
Which is going to focus on like a digital assistant. That might give you the same level of experience outside your Porsche.
Okay.
Or maybe when Porsches become fully electric and autonomous, they might have an assistant that will help you do your chores while you're driving from point A to point B.
That'd be nice.
Really fast. So,
Yeah.
we're beginning to see a lot of manufacturers. Hear that blip? This is
I do.
beautiful. So I think we're beginning to see a lot of these major brands. In fact, today morning I was seeing Lamborghini announce the Urus on Twitter. Whoever thought Lamborghini would go back to making SUVs. We're beginning to see these trends in these. I think there's a lot of surprises in store for the enthusiasts up ahead. Hopefully, most of them are pleasant.
I know. I'm still got that LM002. There's got to be someone on Turo getting one of them that I can rent at some stage.
We don't have one of those quite yet, but we'll start working.
One day, sir.
Yeah,
I just wanted that 28-gallon fuel tank. That's all I needed for 28 gallons. I think that's a reasonable sum for anything. And so as we get back to Turo then, so obviously you can download it as an app.
Yeah.
But what happens if people are looking to find more about it? Is there a website they can go to as well if they want to check it out?
Yeah, we're at Turo.com, so it's easy to remember. It's turbo minus the B.
Easy.
For your viewers and listeners, if you go to Turo.com/friends,
Yep.
there's actually a $25 driving credit waiting for you.
Oh, fantastic. So that is great. So look at that, all those listeners now can be signing up for Turo, getting $25 free credit.
Yeah. I hope you like it.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Pushkar. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Absolute pleasure.
And taking us out for a drive.
Thank you so much, James. Absolute pleasure for me as well. Thank you.
And obviously, everyone, you can check us out next week where we'll have someone totally different.
Thank you.
There we go.